Welcome to the Exhorter podcast. We're aiming to stir up love and good works through bite-sized biblical discussions. We have another topic for you from Kyle today. Kyle, what are we going to be talking about?
Well, if you've ever seen any of my sermon videos, you can probably tell I'm really big into fitness, and that's what we want to talk about today. Fitness, how important should it be in the life of a Christian? Let's just start by asking you guys. Nate, how important is fitness to you?
Well, when you said fitness, I thought like fitness waist into these pants. Like that's kind of tough now that I'm married and have kids and I eat a lot of food. How important?
You have found the weight that I have lost.
I have found some weight. I weigh more now than I ever have since my junior year in college. But how important is fitness to me? John, are you looking at memes right now?
Where does it prioritize in your life? That's
so whenever I think about this, I think of the Monsters University and Art. Does anyone work out and be like, yeah, me neither. I don't want to get too big. That's how we just think about.
Yeah.
I do. I don't work out because I just don't want to I don't want people to.
If you did work out, you'd probably end up looking like
on with inappropriate eyes on these things right here.
Guns.
These guns. Yeah.
Little pea shooters. The old Red Rider over there. How important is fitness to me? Okay. So if one is I'm a couch potato and I eat donuts and ice cream all day, meaning fitness is not important at all.
Why?
And
you have to start there.
Wow. I don't. That sounds good. Huh? It sounds really good.
You just read that from my diary, man.
Yeah.
Jerk.
And then if 5 is like ultra marathoner David Goggins, then I would say probably I'm a 3.5.
Okay, so you know who David Goggins is, which must mean I'm a 1.
Probably don't listen to it.
Here, have you read any of his books?
I've listened to them. That's even worse.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
So, you see, I'm in the middle, exactly like I predicted. We got John and Nate on both ends. I at least know who he is, but I've never read or listened to his books.
Okay.
I'm right here in the middle.
Okay, then I haven't done anything wrong.
Who is it?
Yet.
Who is it?
He's a former Navy SEAL, and he uses very colorful language to motivate his listeners to get off of the couch and go do something with themselves. Yeah. He tried to set a pull-up record of like 4,000 in a day, and literally the flesh came off of his hands. He got to 3,000. I don't know what it was. And the flesh started coming off of his hands, right? Because he did so many pull-ups.
Like a CrossFit guy?
He's more than that. He's more than that.
CrossFit is.
If CrossFit and Iron Man had a baby, that's David Goggins. You got to read his book, his biography.
And then the baby ate them.
It's pretty intense. No, I think that fitness is important. It's been more important to me at different times in my life. But it certainly is something that I believe is important because I believe it has an effect on every aspect. Just about every aspect of our lives. There's a lot of research that shows that exercise can help you reduce anxiety, that it can help you sleep better, that it can help you pay more attention, that it helps memory, that it gives you more confidence. I mean, there's a laundry list of benefits to fitness. And so I see it as very valuable.
Well, I just want to put our cards on the table and how important is it to us? I've had times in my life in the past where it was a much bigger priority than it is now. But I guess the next question is how big a priority should it be in our lives?
So why didn't you even ask me what kind of priority it was for me? Wow. You just skipped me altogether. Be like, obviously, look at John. It's not a priority.
Well, it should be. You're over 40.
Wow.
Ooh.
Okay. So let me state my,
you are in the next decade. You look young.
I had a personal trainer there last year, and I really enjoyed that. And I always just get too caught up with life and don't make it a priority. It's not that I don't believe it as a priority. And my dad having all the health issues he had, and being about my age when he had started some health issues, it's been very top of mind for me lately. And it is something, especially I have young kids. And now is when they want to go out there and play flag football. And I'm like just starting my decline, on my energy level. And so I'm like thinking, okay, now I need to ramp it up. So it's very top of mind. And I do think it is very valuable. I should just put it at the bottom of the list of the things that I would be doing for years. So it's kind of hard. It's a muscle. So it's hard to work it back up and to get to it. So
good analogy.
I do think it is a priority. I do think it needs to be, but I hadn't made it as priority as Mr. Chris Traeger over here.
Microchip
in many years. So thanks for asking, Kyle.
No, Jimmy is the Chris Traeger.
Jimmy is
that
a
guy's
little
fit.
He's zero body fat. Like the kid's like negative body fat.
I know.
But I don't
He
think
does have one Achilles heel,
but yeah,
though.
he's broken every bone in his body, though.
His
That's why.
Achilles.
Like you could say he's got zero body fat. It's because it all atrophied when he was in stasis.
He's not here. Let's
Well,
not
he's got a freezer full
talk
of
too much trash.
doesn't have ice cream in his freezer. It's plain ice milk.
Ice milk,
Non-fat.
not fat.
Well, and I've gone back and forth. Like a few years ago when I still lived in Utah, I was going to the gym every morning, at least 4 days, sometimes 5 or 6, and getting together with 2 other guys and lifting and, keeping track of all the weights and all that stuff. And then, I moved and had some difficult things, some challenging things happen in life. And I moved to Texas where there was brisket everywhere and stopped working out. I gained a lot of weight, but I'm kind of in that boat where it's been a huge priority in my past, but it hasn't been for a while, but I recognize the value in it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of why I bring it up is we're at that point where we're getting to a new year. People are always making resolutions. You can make a resolution any of the other 364 days of the year, but January 1st is like, that's the one that really counts, right?
Yeah.
And so it's on our minds.
Or at least 3 weeks. The average is like 3 weeks. So, yeah.
So I'm just thinking about it. Like,
I go negative Nancy.
This is why I've quit.
And I've seen both sides of it. In fact, very recently, because like I said, going to the gym that much, I was doing heavy lifting. I was trying to bulk, get the big muscles and all that. And I just kind of realized too, like, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
I'm spending a lot of time at the gym. I'm enjoying the time with my gym bros, but like, why do I need to be this strong? I've never struggled to like move anything at my house. I've never felt like, oh, if only I could bench 200 pounds more. I've never felt like it was practically useful.
Sure.
And I just wondered, am I doing this just because I want to look bigger? I want to have a certain physique? Then is this the best use of my time? But now on the other side of it, I am struggling to lose weight and get back to a better shape because, like John, I also have young kids and I want to be healthy and fit. So I'm seeing the other side of that now. And I just want to find that right balance point where maybe there is some value and importance to it, but I don't want to waste time on something that isn't eternally valuable.
I see that vanity and when you're young, and I see it a lot in young guys, late high school, early to mid 20s, going to the gym and only going to the bench press, right? Like they're only going to there.
Yeah.
And there's a vanity appeal to this, having a certain aesthetic body, but also, the camaraderie and the competition of lifting and stuff. And I think that you can get a little carried away with that aspect of it and believe that is the most important thing.
I do need to point out that if you have short arms, you have an unfair advantage on the bench press. I just need to get that out there.
Yeah, get out there.
It's not my fault that I have gorilla long arms.
But you know what I'm talking about. You're a high school teacher. The kids. You actually teach a weightlifting class at school, so you understand what I'm talking about. That can be improper focus and importance in some people's life, which can continue on through life. And the balance that he's talking about is important.
Well, I think it depends on where you're at in your life too. Because like I think about where I'm at now. Like I used to do CrossFit and do all the competitions. I would probably spend 2 hours a day at the gym, probably only an hour and 15 working out, and the rest, just hanging out. But probably 6 days a week. So that's 12 to 15 hours a week that I was spending at the gym. I was single. I didn't have any kids. It was like, so I'd leave work, go there for a couple hours, come home, and do it all over again tomorrow. But now that I have kids and a wife, it's kind of like, well, am I going to be there or am I going to spend time with my family? And so I'm going to spend more time with my family. And so I do spend less time working out, but I still make time to do some exercise. It's changed. It's not all about the bench press and the big weights and that sort of thing. It's more about like, how am I going to have the energy to keep up with my kids and my wife? Yeah.
3 little girls.
Yeah. My 3 little girls. How am I going to have the energy to do that? Okay, well, this is one way that I can do that.
Well, fortunately, we don't have sons, so we don't have to be as fit to keep up with them in sports like John.
This is true. Yeah.
A little misogyny thrown into this episode for you, too.
Good job for you guys. Yeah.
Pick it up, man.
Yeah. So, do you think that there are some men out there who do place too much importance on it and kind of escape reality in the world? Is a catharsis to it too, right?
Oh, yeah.
There's people will find themselves into substances and the endorphins you get from working out is a substance in itself.
What I found in brisket, that's what people find in the gym.
No, but I remember, everybody makes fun of CrossFitters. Why? Because they treat it like it's a religion, right? It's like,
first you work CrossFit is tell everyone about CrossFit.
That's right. Yeah, it's the opposite of Fight Club.
If only we had that same evangelistic zeal in the church.
Yeah, amen. Oh, good point. But so there are people who treat CrossFit like it's a religion, and I remember meeting those people, and it was like, come on, man. There's more to life than what your mile time is or whatever. So I think we can certainly make it more important than it ought to be, like with anything else.
Scripturally speaking, I think one of the strongest arguments people often make, well, I shouldn't say strongest, one of the most common arguments people make.
I picked it up on that.
It's not the strongest one.
It's not the strongest one.
Yes,
1 Corinthians 6 and verse 19. Do you not know that your body is the temple of the Holy Spirit who is in you, whom you have from God, and you are not your own? For you were bought at a price, therefore glorify God in your body and in your spirit, which are God's. And when I typed up this question just for fun, should Christians be concerned about physical fitness? This verse was always included in the sense that God does care about what you do with your body.
But this is also the verse for tattoos and vaccinations and MSG, right? This verse is used out of context for a lot of things, is my point.
Yeah. Well, and just look at one verse before that. Flee sexual immorality.
Yeah, that's really the context of this passage is sexual immorality.
And so I think in a broad sense, you could make that point, but I wouldn't put too much weight on
on the bar.
I wouldn't put too much weight on this scripture as far as really going beyond the sexual immorality and trying to suggest that it teaches more than that. I like I said, as a broad principle, yes, God created our bodies, and I think there is some expectation that we should take care of it.
Yeah.
But this is not a prohibition against smoking. I think there's other arguments you could make against that are better than this verse. It's not a prohibition against tattoos, or it's not saying you have to be super fit and take the best care of your body. As a kid, I used to want to live to be 100. I don't anymore.
Seems like a long time.
I do, because my wife will only be 80.
Yeah, that's how I leave it too. My kids will actually be in their 30s.
Now it's like with all the weight I put on a couple years ago, I started to think like, sure, I don't want to be 100, but okay, now I'm thinking I at least want to live past 60. So it's like, again, it's trying to find that sweet spot. So it's like you could get into that for those who watch Parks and Rec, the Chris Traeger mindset of I want to live forever, but that's just kind of from
that's taking it too far.
Fear of dying.
I think that you make a good point there where it says, so glorify God in your body. I think there's a broader principle there that God has given us this body that we have. We shouldn't go out and purposefully mutilate it, and that we should treat it with respect and honor. I think that we should definitely do that. And there's enough knowledge out there about the value of fitness to say, well, you should probably move your body at least a little bit sometimes, because otherwise it's like mistreating your body. And we just see the negative consequences of non-exercise. And I'm not talking about an hour in the gym every day, pumping major iron. I'm talking about just, okay, let's get out for a walk 20 minutes 3 times a week or something like that.
So, do we want to go to the not but clause of 1 Timothy?
Yeah, go there. I was going to let you, I wanted to kind of set you up.
Want to be a circle
with
around
with softball right there.
1 Timothy 4:8.
1 Timothy 4:8. And I say that's a not but clause because that's what Scott always talked about. It actually, it's not in this one, but just because it says one thing is more important than another doesn't mean the other isn't important, is my point, right? So,
good job, John. Great way of explaining that.
This is Let's see, verse 8. Well, let's start in verse 7. Have nothing to do with irreverent, silly myths. Rather, train yourself for godliness. For while bodily training is of some value, godliness is of value in every way, as it holds promise for the present life and also for the life to come. And so that verse we can talk about physical fitness. There is some value in that. Yeah. It's just not more than godliness.
Yeah.
So. Well, with fitness, it's a good training method that if I can learn to train my body, utilize my body, and build it up into something stronger, you can take the same principles and apply them spiritually.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I think about why do people want their kids to be in sports and on sports teams? Because it's going to teach your kids a whole lot about pushing themselves, about being goal oriented, and in team sports about working with a team. But a lot of that requires you to be some level of physical fitness and some level of pushing yourself.
Well, you learn discipline.
Yes.
And that's going to apply. And if you can be disciplined in one thing, you learn how to be disciplined in anything.
That's right. Another point too, and maybe I'm just drawing conclusions here, but everything in the Old Testament was like physical, right? And then we have the New Testament, and Hebrews talks about how these physical things have become spiritual. Well, why would you start with the physical? Because it's easier to see and understand. And then it's a little bit more difficult or challenging to explain these spiritual concepts because you can't always see them. So you start with what's easier and you move to what's more difficult. Well, it's the same thing with physical sports analogies. Everybody understands the analogy of running a race. Okay, so now let's apply that to Christianity or to your spiritual walk. And it's a little bit more difficult without the analogy to understand that.
Mm-hmm. Well, and as a discipline to better oneself and to,
Well, I'm trying to teach myself important things. That's where I'm changing my mindset. Before, when I was lifting weights, I was doing it to be strong and look better, basically to show off. I wanted big biceps. And, well, what does it matter if you have big biceps? The only way people know that...
You're already 4 inches taller than everyone. You have to be bigger than them, too.
If you walk around, you pop in the pecs or whatever.
Yeah. Aren't you already married?
I
he's
got
been married
since...
Whoa there,
He's been
Kyle.
married since elementary.
Yeah. I did it because I was trying to,
There's so many scriptures against vanity and, being a peacock. There's so many scriptures against that we need to be discreet, modest.
Speaking of vanity.
And not trying to show off. And so...
You want to see what I used to look like?
We're literally giving an example of showing off right now as we're talking about showing off. Yes. Yes.
I can show you I got my cry picture. It's the one I look at and cry because only like 6 years ago I looked really good. But there's so many scriptures about...
I'm feeling a little insecure right now.
Not showing off. And
you know Photoshop, don't you?
I do.
I've officially lost my train of thought now.
Sorry, Kyle. That was my intent. If you worked out a little more, you'd have sharper mind powers.
There you go. But that's where I'm changing my approach. Is I used to do it for the appearance of what I wanted. Now I'm trying to teach myself something. I don't need to be functionally stronger, but I think I should be a little more fit.
Yeah.
And I've got some reasons we can talk about a little bit, at the end of the episode. But I find that in teaching myself to be a more regimented person in every aspect of life, it will help me be more regimented with daily reading, focused prayer every day. If I can just teach myself to be more regimented, you know what the best week of my life is every year? It's always summer camp.
Shark Week.
Second best week of the year. Second best week of the year. Yeah. Did you know Sharks have a week of TV devoted to Chuck Norris? But the best week of my life is camp. And I think the reason is, and I'm not going to get all campy here, but the reason is the whole week of camp every day. And there's some wiggle room in the schedule, but the whole day is planned out and scheduled. And since I'm the director of the camp, I really can't deviate from the schedule. I have to wake up. I have to be the first one up. I have to make sure the bell gets rung so all the kids wake up. I have to make sure they're all there. And so I have to go and check every class, make sure the kids are in their Bible classes. I have to go and, so I'm following the schedule, and it includes scheduled time for prayer, scheduled time for Bible study, scheduled time for eating, scheduled time for sports activities, scheduled time for bed. And it's just the whole week is regimented. And I just find that week is just the best week of my life. And then I come back and it's all chaos. I wake up at 9 one morning. I wake up at 6 the next. And I need to get that regimented feeling in my life. So that's what I'm looking for in fitness. when it comes to eating food. It's like we've talked about that last year with our episode on gluttony. That's a struggle of mine. I turn to food for comfort when I should turn to God and pray. And so if I can learn to say no to this, learning to say no to one appetite is a good way to train yourself to say no to other temptations or other sins. And so learning discipline is going to help you be disciplined potentially in any area, especially where it matters. So there are some important lessons to be learned. And so Paul is right that bodily fitness is of some value, but I think we have to keep in mind that that value is in serving the greater exercise, which is of the spirit.
Yeah, absolutely. So I read a book a while back called Spark, and it's all about like the benefits of fitness and exercise. And I was reviewing some of those as I was preparing for this episode, and it just made me think, if, like, for instance, exercise makes a person more confident, or can make a person more confident. Well, would I be a better Christian if I were a little bit more confident? Exercise can help reduce anxiety. Would I be more influential if I were less anxious? Exercise can improve your energy. Could I potentially be a better servant of God if I had a little bit more energy to go serve? And I just think, okay, what Paul said is right. Godliness is of more value, but that doesn't mean that physical exercise is of no value. Physical exercise does have some value, and I think that we should place some emphasis on that.
You know, you want to talk about being useful to God and having the energy to do that? I think that's one of the reasons why it should be of some value, is if we don't have the energy to get off, our behinds and go out and talk to people and spend some time trying to share the gospel, are we really being useful to our master? Listen to this. One person went through and tried to calculate the extent of Jesus' travels during his 3-year ministry, and their conclusion was that on foot he traveled about 2,500 miles during 3 years.
This is where I was going. It's not like Jesus didn't work out. Walking is exercise. They walked everywhere.
Well, Jesus could multiply
sandals,
bread,
which is actually a lot.
Jesus could multiply
harder.
bread, so he had to work off the carbs.
Many of us probably don't consider ourselves as very, very active or very in shape. And so, I mean, these are really great things to bring up Jesus' travels and everything. These can convict me to try to be in a better shape, so I have more energy to do things. But I don't think we're saying, or we want people to negatively think about themselves and their position right now. Obviously, we're not just saying good job if you are fit, but if you're not, you're walking your
Well, fitness is kind of a moving target too.
It is.
What is fit?
Well, so what I was thinking is, if people have the view that I am Chris Traeger, who works out all the time and is like, right, 0% body fat, just a super fit person. Well, the reality is right now I get about 3 times a week to work out of about 30 minutes, sometimes less than that. Sometimes less than that. That's. I
pay for his gym membership for the last year, and we've gone like 3 times. So I mean, there's a spectrum here of.
I'm not coming from a place of judgment of people who are.
My exercise is having 8 acres of property.
I know, I say that, and because if he's not going out with me to the gym, I feel like I'm good because I don't go. Well, but then he's over there like chopping logs for his.
Well, the in Bible times, like I just wonder what would they think of us 2,000 years later? You guys pay to go simulate chopping wood on a machine.
Yeah. It's like when you talk to a guy who works in construction and you're like, hey, you want to come work out with me? He's like, why would I do that? I work with my hands and my body 8 hours a day. No, I'm going to go sit on the couch. Thanks.
And the reality is we've all been dealt a different hand of cards physically.
Yeah.
Some of us, my brother Ryan, we grew up eating the same foods and roughly the same quantities.
He is in much better shape.
Well, you'd think so.
He's also better looking and maybe a little bit smarter too, Kyle.
But you know what?
I hear he plays the tuba pretty well.
He ran a marathon a year ago here in California. It broke him. He hasn't run a race like that in over a year now.
Throw your brother.
He's had to take a year off to do physical therapy and try and come back from it.
Marathons are rough.
So yeah, he's thinner than me and he can run faster. But that's just the way his genetics are. And
Sure.
And yes, over the years,
Yeah, I still have cartilage in my knees, so I think I'm pretty good.
I have started to eat more, but growing up, I was always bigger than him. He was a little taller than me until I caught up to him in height, but I was always bigger and heavier than him, and we ate the same things growing up. And so we all have a little bit different, and some of us have some more physical hardships or just more obstacles to overcome. So fitness is definitely a moving target.
And when you're not fit or you feel like you're not fit, then it's super hard to get started because you're like, oh my goodness, I'm not fit. I'm not going to be Arnold Schwarzenegger next week. So what's the point? So how do you get started if you haven't started?
Well, I was just whether we should or not, right? Because
you're still there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, Kyle, let's restart the episode.
All right. I'm just playing. Obviously, it's a worthwhile thing. We've laid out lots of reasoning where it's beneficial to you to be healthy.
Yeah.
We'll say these words. We're talking about healthy. Fit is a moving target.
And maybe
goal is to be healthy.
And maybe at whatever point in your life you're at, like if I took fitness a lot more serious when I was 20 and just worked on maintaining being slim, and that's what I want now. I don't need to be stronger than I am. I'm strong enough to do any chore around my house. I don't need to be stronger, but I do need to be a little bit lighter. I need a better resting heart rate. Those are things that I would like. But when I was 20, if I just said, young Kyle, just maintain what you are. You're fine the way you are. Don't waste your time lifting weights. Just go for walks every day and eat good. I would be a totally different person today.
Get some sleep.
But I didn't do that. I'm nearly 40 and I'm a lot heavier than I should be. I'm losing weight, but I have a lot more I need to lose. So this is me at 40. You might be 50, you might be 60, and you're not going to be the same weight you were in college, or you're not going to slim down, at whatever point you are in your life. I think we all have to be realistic with where we are, what the hand of cards we've been dealt genetically is, what injuries we might have had. So it's always a different question for everybody, and we just have to do the best with what we've got.
It's so funny that you talk about all this because in my mind, I think I'm 10 years ago, I'm still the skinny person that I was, but I did not get sleep working at a startup for like 10 years. So you don't get sleep, man. That's like the first thing, right? You get 4 hours, 5 hours a night. You're eating late. I mean, metabolism can't keep up with all that. So, I mean, I mentally project myself and think of myself, especially at football, flag football, every turkey day, every year. I'm so excited to get out there, like 10 minutes out there. I'm like, what happened this year?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, the way we project and think of ourselves is differently sometimes than what's out there.
I laid into you pretty good at the beginning of this episode, but I will say this to your credit, John. Despite the fact that I'm physically superior in every other way, I am actually envious of how well you throw a football. I can't throw a tight spiral. I can't throw half as far as you can. So I will put that feather in your cap.
For 15 minutes while I do it before my arm.
What do they call those underhanded compliments? Yeah, that was the best example of a backhanded compliment that I have ever seen.
I'm trying the Goggins approach to motivating John.
Your language would be very different if you were trying the Goggins approach.
So let's try and wrap this up. I think we're just trying to say that,
Kyle, I'm going to interrupt you. I didn't even ask to interrupt. Can I interrupt? I want to say just a couple of things, and then
you're the junior.
I have one thing. I have one thing, three things, and then five more things.
You're still third.
I'm an odd kind of guy.
You're still third chair.
Okay, so I want to say this. All right.
Wow.
Go ahead.
I don't even know what that means because I play the Jews harp. So when it comes to fitness, I think if you're struggling to get started, I just want to say this. It doesn't take a lot to start that journey. 15, 20 minutes, 2-3 times a week, it can be all that's needed to get started on that path. And the other thing too,
don't try and jump the Grand Canyon in one leap.
Don't try and jump the Grand Canyon in one leap. And if you can find someone to help you be accountable to that will help you continue. And then the last thing, this is what I have done when I have fallen off the fitness horse in the past, is write down my progress. Today I walked 10 minutes. Cool. Today I walked 15 minutes. Cool. And just continue that on a daily basis and have someone to share it with. And if you do those things, I think you'll slowly get to a point where it's like, okay, well, maybe I can jog for 2 minutes. And then the next week it's, well, maybe I can jog for 4 minutes. and just get on that path. And I think if you continue on that path, it'll
and have
be
a
good
realistic goal for where you are in life. Looking like someone from a Marvel film is not realistic for anybody. It's not even realistic for them. They can't maintain that longer than it takes for them to film the movie. Then it's just unrealistic standards.
I think you look like Drax.
I look like Fat Thor. Thank you very much. But just kind of summarizing what we're really talking about, I think 1 Timothy 4 and verse 8 is probably the best scripture we read today about this, where there's some value in it. We need to prioritize the spiritual fitness way above anything physical, but there's some value. If what you want, again, we're not trying to look like a Marvel movie comic book hero, but if our goal for fitness is to just have a little more energy, a little more zeal, be able to run around with our kids, be able to go out and do the work that God wants us to do and share the gospel with others, get a little more confidence and just feel better about things, then that's good. That's a good thing, as long as it's in service of the greater needs of our soul. It's easy for this to become an extreme on both ends, to not even care about it. But I think you're undervaluing what you can offer to God if you just had a little more energy to do it. But on the other extreme, I was thinking of 3 John verse 2. Beloved, I pray that you may prosper in all things and be in health just as your soul prospers. It says, I wish your body would match your soul. How many people are the other way around, where it's like they look great on the outside, but their soul is like struggling for life? And Paul is talking to this guy, his friend Gaius, and says, I wish that your health would be just like your soul prospers. So the soul has to come first. So just in wrapping up, and we could just give some practical suggestions. If we're going to prioritize fitness in our lives, we need to know its proper place. And I think there's some things we can do to maybe get the most out of it. If you're going to go for a walk or lift weights or go to the gym or do some exercising, what do you listen to when you do that?
This podcast.
The Exhorter.
Maybe you should listen to Excel still more. I mean, the Exhorter.
Wow. Wow.
Or maybe you should listen to some,
if you have time for a second,
Christian music,
or listen to some good, positive, encouraging Caleb.
Acapella music.
Listen to our next episode, or maybe our last one.
FC acapella hymns. That's
pretty good. That could be
Yeah.
a really good suggestion. If it's time that you think is worthwhile and you have good reasons for wanting to get in shape and improve your level of physical fitness, try to add a spiritual element to it. Say a prayer before you begin your workout and listen to something that's going to be valuable to you spiritually during that time. When I was lifting heavy, I liked Metallica because it would get me fired up. But now when I go for walks, I do listen to something that is more spiritually valuable than Metallica.
Is that even possible?
Is that less?
Just kidding. That was sarcasm.
So a little less swole, but yeah.
Well, and another suggestion is work out with a friend. Someone that you can talk spiritual things about as you work out. One of my favorite memories is when I was first learning to run. And yeah, it's something you have to learn how to do the right way. My friend Devin. And he said, what's really good for you is to talk while you run. And here I am, gasping for, I would say
easy to say with walking with Devin.
I would say like 2 words and then struggle for breath for 5 minutes and then say 2 or 3 more words. But by the end, we would carry on conversations as we would run 5 or 6 miles. And I found that to be a really good bonding experience. And if it's time you're going to spend, find someone that you could share that time with and strengthen a friendship and talk about some spiritual things and just learn some things about this other person, maybe how you can pray for them. And, I think in the church, we need some strong friendships, and this is just a good way to do that. Do you guys have any other practical?
No, now I'm thinking Devin has 3 kids. I'm hoping he's fat.
He's not. He's not.
I know. Just his luck, man. He give you a run for your money, man.
It's just all genetics, just like my brother Ryan.
Yeah. No, I think that's good. I do think it's just find ways to be healthy so you can be in service of God and glorify Him more. So, but prioritize.
Yeah. So if you're going for a run this week, please listen to this podcast. Subscribe. We got basically 2 full seasons now.
Yeah.
Subscribe, like, share.
Yeah. And, this year, just do it.
We're not sponsored by Nike.
Yeah. No. I'm just going to do the TB12. I'm going to commit.
What is that?
TB12 method.
I don't even know what that is.
Tom Brady wrote a book on
Okay.
how to
All right.
exercise and be
But you
healthy.
need
Okay.
deer antler velvet, and
My
you
name's
need
John. I like Tom Brady. It's
fetal
not.
stem cells
Yes.
He has
directly
avocado.
injected into your
He has
spine.
avocado chocolate
I put
ice cream.
the
That's what he
avocado
has.
pit into my smoothies. It's got fiber in it, lots of it.
What?
That's what I heard from the guy who was doing the demonstration at Costco. So I started.
Well,
The
I
Vitamix is
think
You
on a
literally
scale
believe
of,
in anything. Well, literally.
so let me just say this, John. On a scale of
I found
one,
this on the ground. Eat it. It's fibrous.
on a scale of 1 to 5, does making his own kombucha and rewarding himself with sparkling water really sound like a 3.5?
Rewarding himself with sparkling water.
It's soda
how
water.
is it a-
It's soda. It's
but
not
how is
sparkling
But
water.
how is it a reward? There's no value to it. There's nothing in it. But
I heard about it
I
once
did the
from
cinnamon
someone.
challenge, and so that's very similar.
You did almost die doing
I
that.
did almost die.
I wasn't there for it, but I saw the video.
Oh man, it's so bad.
That's terrible. Cinnamon is very good for your blood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not that day. I have this beautiful. I found this beautiful hourglass in my dad's, and I'm gonna put it right there on the table, and
Why?
it'll slowly count
Why?
down. Because if we go
Why?
past the sands, we know we're broaching way too far.
People still listen.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you think people listen to this podcast?
Yes.
I give you.
Don't you
inflated
have
nu- I give you inflated numbers a lot, dude. Don't worry.
Don't you have the Google Analytics?
We have a few fans.
So you're saying what we're doing isn't worth
It's really just for my own benefit.
it? So you can tell the elders I did something.
I just really like.
You know what?
I just really like hanging out with you guys.
Please continue so that I can say I did something.
Yeah, I just really want to hang out with you guys. That's wrong.
Hey guys.